What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge. And it's on Shudder now. Let's check it out. So I was actually a pretty big fan of the first movie that they did, which is also on Shudder. So if you've never heard of Scare Package, you can watch 1 and 2 back to back on Shudder for the subscription service. It should be on AMC Plus and everywhere. But I was actually quite a fan of the first one. It was kind of a spoofy horror anthology that had like 4 or 5 segments and then one large wraparound, which is usually the through story that goes all the way to the end that keeps all of the, shorts together in this sort of neat way. But this is one of the first times I saw an anthology that had a really large wraparound. Now, some people had their issues with it. It obviously was a lower budget film, but it had tons of gore, tons of jokes, tons of nods towards other horror movies that, in my opinion, was made for horror fans, not the casual viewer, so to speak. And in true fashion, of course, they made a sequel, which means they're going to up the ante on a lot of that. So what is Scare Package 2, Rad Chad's Revenge all about? Essentially, this is taking place after, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the first one, this is a minor spoiler, Rad Chad's funeral is happening, and all of his friends and family and people that survived the first movie are there to sort of see him on his way out. It's almost as if the shorts that you got to see and everything were all part of this fictional world. It's kind of intertwined, so there's people from the shorts there. It's kind of a weird mix of things, but Rad Chad has a VHS tape that, of course, he plays for everybody and locks them into some sort of life or death game, and these people at the funeral have to band together following the rules of horror to try to survive his bloody revenge game. So what did I think of this? Well, I actually didn't like this one as much as the first one. Surprisingly, the first one was so different and refreshing because we don't really see like horror spoof anthologies. So while the first movie had a lot of nods and sort of, tropes and things, I mean, hell, their production company that makes this is called Tropes 2 for this film, which means that, obviously they're playing on the horror tropes in the movie for all these segments and, of course, the wraparound. And it's heavy-handed nods, gore, and jokes, which I think actually kind of the frequency of all of that kind of overwhelmed me as a viewer while watching this. And I know you're thinking to yourself, Alex, why would you not like to have extra of what you have? And, in true sequel fashion, I mean, that is kind of what they do in sequels, right? They just lay on the gas and give you extra of what you want. And it's never really ever the same as the first movie. Like the first movie generally is like the best movie in a horror franchise. And then the sequel kind of blows the lid off with all this extra stuff. Although as a viewer and watching this, the frequency of the jokes and everything was a little overdoing it for me. And I think I kind of tuned out a little bit more than I did on the first one. There is a lot of funny stuff in this one, and I did laugh, of course, because these are jokes that are catered directly to a horror fan. I'd say it's pretty safe to say that if you liked the first one, you're going to enjoy this one, but taper your expectations a little bit. Who knows? Maybe you'll enjoy it more than the first one because the jokes are more frequent. For me, I just found it to be a little too much. It was a little too much to just kind of soak in and enjoy those moments. But there are moments in the film that I just really enjoyed. And so I did enjoy this film. It's just a lower score than the first one. Now, I don't remember what I gave the first one. I think it was like 8.5 or something like that, or 9 or something, because it was just new and fresh and I hadn't seen anything like it. Obviously, both of these films are lower budget, but, obviously they had more of a budget, it seems, on this one. There's a lot of people that are showing up in this movie, a lot of cameos and things like they did the first movie. You got Kelly Maroney from Night of the Comet who's in here, if you remember her with the Uzis in that movie. Graham Skipper, who's pretty much like the king of freaking, you know, underground horror films these days. He's been in everything, including a lot of Joe Bago's films. In fact, I think I've seen like 3 movies Graham Skipper's done like within the last month. But yeah, we get a lot of segments. We get 4 segments and the wraparound, which is a heavy portion again, you know, of the story of Rad Chad in there. But the first segment is called Welcome to the 90s. This is, of course, a play on female final girls and sort of the tropes of the 80s and 90s, which I thought was really fun. I enjoyed that one. We also get the second segment, which is The Night He Came Back, Part 6, The Night She Came Back. Long title, by the way. And that is by director Anthony Cousins, who has done a lot of popular shorts that are pretty out there and pretty crazy. Writer partner on this one, John Karsko, who's also worked on a couple of things that he's done, but they have never, I don't think they've ever done any kind of like a feature film, but mostly shorts. This was a play on slashers again, partial like Michael Myers, making fun of that, kind of mixing a few different slashers sort of into one and kind of playing with the tropes that you see in those movies. I mean, obviously all of these are slasher centric. I think a little bit more so than the first one, but yeah, definitely more than the first one. This one's very slasher centric. And the first one was actually pretty heavy on that as well, but they had a couple of shorts that were different. It kind of went off the slasher path slightly. We get our third segment, which is called Special Edition by Jed Shepard, who wrote and directed this one. He is, of course, from the Host fame, which is a Shudder exclusive about the sort of live found footage where the people were in the middle of the, you know, the whole stuff with the sickness the past few years. Can't say it because they'll strike me on here. He did another movie called Dash Cam, which also dealt with that towards the tail end of everything that we were dealing with. But this segment in particular was kind of like a less overly jokey kind of version, but also still kind of schlocky. And surprisingly, it wasn't a live or found footage, so be on the lookout for that one. I didn't really know what was going on in that one or what was supposed to be happening, but some of the stuff that happens in that is pretty cool. And then we get our fourth segment, which is We're So Dead by director Rachel Wiggins, and Aaron B. Kuntz and Cameron Burns helped write this one. And this one was a play on sort of like Stephen King, some of his movies and other movies sort of mixed into one in the main wraparound to this whole movie where Rad Chad and his world exists. So it kind of plays into that one pretty heavily. That one was kind of fun. And then of course we have the whole wraparound for the whole movie, which obviously is the heavy portion of the entire film, that it's almost like you're watching a movie with a couple of shorts thrown in. But yeah, I really did enjoy this film. I would definitely add it to my collection, but I would definitely taper your expectations. Maybe I need to watch it a second time, but as it stands right now, kind of at like a 7, maybe a 6.5 out of 10. And that it just is kind of on the fence for me because it just was very overwhelming. Like I said, maybe that was intentional because this is the sequel after all, and it's got the sequelitis stuff in it, you know, that is a heavy trope of sequels. So, I mean, there's tons of jokes from just about every horror franchise that's out there, and even some deep cuts on certain things too. But they sort of do play with Saw a little bit. Chad's From Beyond the Grave is sort of running, and you kind of find out what's going on with that and why it's happening. Very heavy-handed on the Saw stuff, but it is bloody, it is gory, it is overwhelming for me, but maybe it'll be something that will crack you up too. There were some really funny things, running gags that they have in the movie that I really enjoyed, including one with Hellraiser, which I won't spoil for you. Graham Skipper does a really good job in this movie. I think he can play serious roles, but he does really do comedy pretty fucking well when he does comedy, and I think he did a really excellent job here. So there are other standout moments, obviously, other than that. I don't know. I had to take it all in, and it's like there's a lot of ideas and creativity that are bouncing around. There is no doubt that this is a very creative film, but like I said, it is a little overwhelming for most viewers, I would think. And some of the trivia and sort of like underground humor and stuff in there, it's just popping off so much, man. It's like you could miss it and probably go back and rewatch it and forget that that joke was even in there they happen so frequently that you kind of don't have time to laugh. It's still fun. I still enjoy it. And I, wonder if they're going to be doing a third one, which I'll definitely watch, of course. But yeah, I would love to hear what you guys think. I haven't looked to see what anybody else thinks yet, so I just didn't care. But I know a lot of people were big fans of the first one or not fans at all of the first one. So I would love to hear what you guys think. Happy holidays to you guys. I hope you're having a fantastic celebration wherever it is. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and I hope you guys have a wonderful one. I'll be back with some more hopefully this week. I have a lot of physical media that you guys need to check out. Other than that, happy holidays, thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the boys.